Hey, good morning. Let's call the Rankin County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, May 16th, 2022. I hadn't seen Mike Word today. He may be taking the day off. So, Mr. Slay, would you mind with a word of prayer?
I'd be glad to. Let's go to the word of prayer before we begin our meeting today. Father, the time that we come before you, before we start our meeting, is the most important time that we use in this meeting. We invoke your presence in this place, and we ask you, Father, to superintend, to be in charge. I pray, Father, that you will empower these men with incredible discernment and wisdom so that they make the kinds of decisions that are in keeping with your will first and foremost, but serve the greater good, the best interest of all of our citizens of Rankin County. And thank you for this place that you've given us called Rankin County. Father, where we can come together like this and participate in our government. Father, it encourages us to see such goodwill among all of our people. Father, we look around the world and we wonder whether everything's falling apart, but here where we are in this place, this local place, we see your hand at work and we see your hand of protection, and we're thankful and we feel blessed. So thank you, Lord. Give us a good day today in Christ's name.
Amen. Great. Thank you, Mr. Slay. We'll go into item 3 on our agenda under public comment. I'm going to move one thing around from item A to item B. I'm going to move item B up because I want to recognize our distinguished congressman that's here. Mr. Slay, if you would. Congressman Guest, we appreciate your time to come in here. We know your schedule is absolutely crazy and frantic. I know I changed the podium on him. Mr. Slay thought we were doing it second, Congressman, so we went curveball early on him right here. So
I had a higher priority than our
that's exactly. There's no doubt about it. I wanted to get the congressman here because we're going to hit these Puckett Wolves next. And while we've got the congressman here, I know we want to take part of that too. But Mr. Slay, if you'd say a few words to our congressman.
Absolutely. Please. Gentlemen, it is our highest honor to be able to welcome our 3rd District Congressman Michael Guest before us today. Before we get going, I wanted to say just a few words, and Michael doesn't know that I was going to do any sort of introductory remarks at all, so I'm going to take up most of his time by letting you guys know how impressed and important Michael is for Rankin County. This past week, a group of us were able to spend time in Washington, D.C. We went with the express purpose of meeting with our congressional delegation, Michael among them, and we asked for audiences with each of our congressmen, our senators and our congressmen, and we were favored with a great reception all the way around. And Michael and his group, his staffers, were incredibly gracious to give us time, to make time for Rankin County, and to give us an audience so that we could express, number one, our appreciation for the work that is being done on behalf of Rankin County in Washington, D.C. by our folks, the folks that take an interest in Rankin County, care about Rankin County, and keep Rankin County's priorities at the highest levels. And we cannot do what we do here in Rankin County without our representation in Washington, D.C. Throughout our time, we met with great receptivity for the interests that we were able to express. We talked to Michael at length about our stormwater management program and how important that is. We were able to relate to Michael the commitment that this board has made to use its American Rescue Plan Act funds to pursue and to promote and to initiate legitimate on-the-ground activities related to our stormwater management plan that's been in place since 2018. And we were able to again express that story about Rankin County, how it is taking advantage of an opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take funding that's been made available to us and to ramp up and to pursue our stormwater management program at a high level that none of us could have ever dreamed or imagined we would have an opportunity to do that. We were able to tell Michael about how successful we have been with the state legislature, and the state legislature has come alongside and has decided to give us a favorable opportunity to take advantage of monies that would be available at the state level, to join with the monies that you guys have already committed, and to initiate and ramp up our stormwater management program at even a greater level. And Michael, he paid attention to us And I was watching Michael as he was hearing me talk about that, and it really did look like he was interested in what I was saying. And I just want to say thank you. Took notes, and his staffers could not have been more helpful to us. What arose out of that conversation was that Michael is interested in doing everything that he can to participate in our stormwater management program. That gives us three pieces of the puzzle: our money, the state's money, and potentially Washington's money to help us move our stormwater management plan. But that's not all we went up there to talk about. We also asked Michael to listen to us and to be helpful to us as it relates to your transportation initiatives. We've talked about this at length, and we've talked about some important transportation projects that are out there, that are on the books, that are already federally authorized, and that you have already received funding on. And we asked Michael to please be a part of that and to use your position, your strategic positions in Congress to be able to help Rankin County's story get told, but also put us in line to get some help on funding that we desperately need. Your transportation projects have really big numbers associated with them. When we take on a project like that and we go to DC with it, it's not a small potatoes project. This is a big deal. And so we do that because we like for Washington especially to know that Rankin County intends to take care of its own business. That's what you guys do, and you do it well. But there's a limit that we can undertake initiatives on our own without help. And so you're wise enough to know if we're going to do everything we want to do and everything that our people expect, we have got to get to DC, and we've got to get to the state legislature and try to get some help there. And they've always been receptive. I want to give Michael the podium to make a few remarks. He has a pretty important date coming up early June the 7th. I am asking anybody listening to this to consider keeping Michael Guest where he is in Washington, D.C. Why? Because that is in the best interest of Rankin County and Rankin County citizens. We need his representation in Washington, D.C., and we need him to be voted back in as our congressman so that he can keep doing the effective work that he's already doing. He's getting placed strategically on committees that can make a difference for Rankin County. That's what a congressman does. And his leadership has already been recognized, and we need to put him back in place. We need to put him back where he belongs. So I'm asking Michael to come and to address this board and ask everybody for their vote. Come on, Michael.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Congressman.
Mr. President, congratulations on a hard-fought win yesterday. Northwest Rankin is going to be representing Rankin County well in the state championship. For those that were in D.C. Last week, thank you all for coming there, but want you to know that you don't ever have to come to D.C. to find me. You know where my office is, almost directly across the street from where you are. Everyone on this podium has my cell phone number, as does Craig Slay, as does Larry Swells, as does the sheriff. The same number that I had when I served you as DA, I have that same number today. And if any of you have ever called, I promise you I will get that call returned as quickly as I can, because you are the governor. You govern the place that I call home, the place I grew up, the place Craig and I grew up together. You know, I remember when Brandon was a sleepy little town, when the one stoplight that we had there in downtown Brandon at 10 o'clock at night would flash red after the 10 o'clock hour. We know that that's not the case anymore. And I know that you have some huge responsibilities, particularly as we've seen the growth of Rankin County. We've talked about infrastructure. I know that's something that y'all have spoken to me individually when I'm talking to y'all one-on-one just out in the community, and that's something that y'all are coming to our office as a board trying to seek to make sure that there is a federal component to what's happening here in Rankin County. I'll tell you that anytime that we have the opportunity to help, we're going to do so, because I know that any funds that we send here to this county, those funds are going to be spent. They're going to be spent well, and they're going to be spent for the right purpose. We were able to make 3 requests this year. One as a down payment on the stormwater system that y'all are putting in place. One for the city of Pearl for some water and sewage, and another for the city of Pelahatchie. And so those are local governments that we're helping in addition to the county for some very important infrastructure needs, because we've got to have the infrastructure for Rankin County to continue to grow and continue for us to be successful. Before I leave, I want to remind everybody here, not just our board members, but those behind me, that this is National Law Enforcement Week. This is a week for us to honor those men and women who every day work hard to keep us safe. We've got our sheriff here in the board meeting today. I'll tell you, he does a fabulous job. Brian and I go way back. He was a young narcotics investigator at the time. I was a very green prosecutor, and for the last 20 plus years, or for over 20 years, almost 25 years, Brian and I got to work together. And I would tell you, he is the best sheriff in the state. I would put him up against anyone out there. He does a fabulous job. And so we need to remember, particularly this time of year, remember their service, remember their sacrifice. I invite all of our board members Friday morning at Jenna Benna's right here across the street. Myself and D.A. Bubba Bramlett, we're holding a law enforcement appreciation breakfast. Just want people to come and to thank our law enforcement officers for all that they do. Because Rankin County is an incredible place. It's an incredible place because we've got good government, we've got good schools, and we've got great law enforcement. And you as a board, you're responsible for making sure that those things remain that way. Y'all have done a fabulous job as a board, and I can't thank you enough for what you do. And I want you to know that we are going to continue to partner with you for as long as you will allow me to continue to serve you in our nation's capital. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Congressman. Mr. Slade, we're going to go back to item A. Sorry to throw you a change in the schedule right out of the gate, but now that we've got Congressman Guest here, we want to definitely recognize our Puckett group. So, Mr. Slade, Mr. Calhoun, Brad, you want to say a few things
I'll say a
first?
few words. What the Puckett Lady Wolves did, winning the 2A state track and field, is pretty remarkable. I think it's been probably 60 years since this has been done, and with 8 girls, they competed. And I think one of the girls is in junior high, 8th grader, and she did a super job, and we're so proud of y'all, the coaches and the principal of Puckett, and Craig's going to say a few words.
Absolutely. Ladies, we do want to extend congratulations to you, and I have an actual formal recognition document here, a resolution that I'm going to read. But before I do, I'm going to read off the team member names. They're going to get their names called twice this time, but I want them to come forward. As your name is called, assuming that I pronounce it correctly, I want you to come forward and stand right up here. And ladies, it's a special day because your congressman, your 3rd district congressman, decided to show up for your recognition today. Isn't that amazing? And so we're going to get a picture with everybody, including the congressman today, if he's willing to do that for us. All right, I would like to introduce Miss Carly Anderson. Carly, come forward. Keegan Ellington. Isabella Hanks. Mallory Mitchner. Morgan Morris. Ruthie Partridge. Cheyenne Warrington. And Sarah Wyrick. Also want to recognize and ask to come forward Coach Shane Cothran and Coach Zorka Patrick. Principal Collins, come forward. Is anybody left at Puckett today? Awesome job, ladies.
Hey, if we could, if Chancellor Curtis Wells and Congressman Guest, Sheriff Bailey, y'all want to join in the picture up here? Left side?
Come forward, and then I'm going to read this resolution.
I don't think we have any other elected officials in the room, do we? Be sure I didn't miss anybody.
I'm going to get Monica. I want you right here in the middle. Come on. Come on, right next to the trophy.
Right next to the trophy. All right.
Yeah.
Can't believe they didn't get nickels in here.
All right, y'all hang on just a second.
Photoshop yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to read this resolution. Whereas the Puckett Attendance Center Lady Wolves won the 2022 Mississippi High School Athletic Association Class 2A Track and Field State Championship on April the 29th, 2022 at the Woody Burnett Track and Field Complex in Pearl. The team garnered 82 points, besting the second place team Charleston High School by 5 points to take the team title. Whereas this talented group of athletes competed at the highest level in a total team effort. I've called their names. I'm going to say their names one more time. Carly Anderson, Keegan Ellington, Isabella Hanks, Mallory Mitchner, Morgan Morris, Ruthie Partridge, Cheyenne Warrington, and Sarah Wyrick. Whereas, guys, we always do this. And so I ask, whenever we're getting ready to do a recognition, I always tell either the coach or the principal, whoever I'm dealing with, we want to recognize the team GPA if it's noteworthy. If it's noteworthy. All right, so get this. The most impressive statistic compiled by the Puckett Attendance Center Lady Wolves Track and Field team is their overall team GPA, which stands at 3.9. Congratulations. Man, smart and fast.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, which
All
one of
whereas
you made
the
the
Puckett
B?
Attendance Center Lady Wolves Track and Field team coaching staff is under the direction of coaches Shane Cawthorn and Zora Patrick, Principal Brian Collins, as well as the other members of the administration at Puckett Attendance Center are to be commended for their outstanding commitment to both academic and athletic success. It's therefore resolved that we commend and congratulate the members of the Lady Wolves Track and Field team, the coaching staff, the administrative leadership of Puckett Attendance Center for their championship 2022 season. On behalf of all citizens of Rankin County, we extend our heartfelt wishes for continued success on and off the field. That's resolved and adopted, gentlemen, today. May 16th has been signed by each of the board members and also by our Chancery Clerk, Mr. Swales. I have the original of this document I'm going to give to the principal, and he's going to make sure it gets displayed there in Puckett for everybody to see. We are very, very proud that you brought a state championship back to Rankin County. Way to go. All right.
All right,
Now-
thank you, guys.
Congratulations, y'all.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, ladies. Yeah.
Great job, guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Hey, congratulations. Way to go.
Good job.
Hey, congratulations. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Proud of you.
See you, brother. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Hey, what was y'all's best event?
We have Warrington, actually placed first in 3 events by herself. So she scored 30 points.
And she's the 8th grader.
She's eighth grade.
Eighth grade?
Long jump, high jump, and pole vault.
Thank you all for having us.
Hey, thank you very much.
This will be our last time to do this.
Let's see her a lot.
Yeah.
They're coming in. All right, we'll jump back into our public comment, and we're going to move to item C, Mr. Slay. I keep calling you up over and over.
Y'all gonna wear me out for it.
I'm going to put public comment comment, Craig Slay. And I'm going to go on the next agenda. But item C, recognition of our county employee scholarship
Yes.
and Mississippi Association of Supervisors, the Rankin
Yes.
County Board of Supervisors, to our honoree for 2022.
That's
Slay.
right. Gentlemen, I want to ask Miss Ann Clayton Kane to come forward and to be recognized. Ann Clayton has been awarded the Mississippi Association of Supervisors 2022 County Employee Scholarship, and she is a Rankin County girl. And I want to ask her mom, Amy, come forward, please, and you would be recognized as well. This is our county employee. This Amy goes with Larry. So this is, come forward, please, and I'll let you guys introduce husband. Hey, Roger. I apologize. We didn't get a chance to meet beforehand. My bad on that. Ann Clayton has applied for it and will receive. Ann Clayton, before I forget it, that's the most important thing right there. That's the check. That's what counts right there.
There you go.
So she's been recognized for outstanding leadership, for outstanding academic performance, and just being an overall outstanding person, period. And so MAS makes this scholarship available to a student in each county each year. And so it is our privilege and our pleasure to be able to recognize you as the 2022 recipient. And we really wish you the greatest success in your future endeavors. Let's congratulate you. Let's get a picture if we can.
I will say one thing about Dave Clinton, her community hours that you have to have in high school to get out of school. Your community hours were how many? How many were they? 200 and something community hours, which you're not required, but she went way above and beyond community hours and doing service for others and helping others. I think that's remarkable.
All right,
Yeah.
some pictures here. Sheriff, you and Congressman come up. Larry, put everybody in the photo.
There you go.
You don't know that?
Do what? Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Hey, you making some pictures today.
Yeah.
All right, good. Congratulations, you guys.
On the trigger
No
happy.
doubt about it.
Wait. You get the names,
All right. All right, we'll get this put back together. Miss Janice, thank you very much.
keeping
So,
keeping the wheels lubed over there too, aren't we? Going back and forth. Podium.
all right, we'll go to item D under public comment. Miss Mary Elizabeth Warren, is she in here? Or Miss
Yeah.
Janice got to grab her? Okay.
Yeah. That'll be interesting.
This is your
Actually, I here.
Yeah, you feel left out, Renee?
Jay gave it to you.
Hey, Jay. Jay, I'm gonna tell you, you remember that trailer the lot we cleaned up down there close to where this is going on? You remember the old guy had all the tires, rims, all that stuff piled up?
Yeah.
And we finally, county cleaned it up. Well, that was a plus. Man, they had a nice, really nice trailer sitting in there, really cleaned the place up.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you Mary Elizabeth Warren?
Yes,
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I would say good, but under the circumstances,
You're here, right?
and just so much stress that I'm having to deal
Sure.
with, dealing with my property.
Okay. Tell us your name again and then your
Mary
address.
Elizabeth Warren,
Right.
And the address?
born and raised in Rankin County. Most of you know my parents as Claes and Elizabeth
Okay.
Wells.
What's your address?
2400
Okay.
South Pearson Road,
Okay, thank you.
Pearl. I want to say when you all was restructuring Pearson Road, I met with probably anywhere from 9 to 10 supervisors that came out, and I was asking then, how were you all going to take the water so that it wouldn't be affected to my property? And I was assured that it was going to be directed in a different direction. And as of today, my house is falling down with the concrete, everything. It's to the point where my children and grandchildren will be in our home dealing with the rain, and we will be killed because of the damage that was caused when I don't want to accuse you all, but the engineers came and took my drainage system totally up, picked it totally up, and they directed and did what they wanted to do. Well, it's causing problems because my home is falling down the hill. and it could happen at any time with my children's, we could be in the home. That's how bad it is. I've called, I've met with Mr. Eugene, and he's explained to me that it's really bad, but it's nothing that he can do. So I'm here today, and I want to say begging for help so that you all will not kill my family, and this is bad. It's bad, it's real bad, where there are holes in the back where the bricks is sitting. It's deep, it's nothing but deep holes. It's deep holes in the back of my home. My home has shifted, cracks all in the house. So at this point, I'm just asking, please don't kill us. I've called over, I want to say over 50 times. I've met with Mr. Eugene over 30 times. So again, I'm here begging, don't kill us. Please, please don't kill us. Because it's nowhere for this water to go. Once you all came out and took up what we paid over $20-some thousand to get the water turned in a different direction. We didn't have this problem before the construction was going on.
What year was
How many years ago was that?
And thank you for asking. I've been begging for
No,
help
I'm
now
talking
for
about
over 15 years, back in 2007, because I keep proper documentation. So that's how I know the times that I've called and talking to Mr. Eugene, Miss Janet, Miss Samantha, Mr. Bishop, and like I say, I want to say over 10 of you came out. And again, I stand here begging, please don't kill us, because these big holes are in the bottom, in the back of the home, and now it's under the bottom where the foundation is, and our house have nowhere to go but to fall with us being in it.
Okay. All right. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you for your comments, Mr.
I
Morrison.
think-
Thank you.
I think we have don't we have a date set
Yes, sir.
to, huh?
Tomorrow,
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Is that 10? 9?
And I just wanted you to know the severity of it so that we will meet. It wouldn't be a put off or none of that, because this
No,
is
we
severe.
we scheduled to meet tomorrow. I think you got that on your
Agenda?
calendar too?
Yes, I do.
Okay, okay.
Again, thank
We'll
you.
see you tomorrow.
Thank you,
Uh-huh,
Mr. Moore,
thank
for your
you.
comments. Ms. Janice, anything else under public comment? Thank you. We do have one, Mr. Parker, I'm gonna bring you up for public comment here in a second, but today is Mr. Harrison's birthday. And if you would, we'll let you pat him on the back for all of us, but happy birthday, Mike, under our public comment.
Yeah.
Mr. Parker wanted to be sure we recognized you this
I know,
morning.
I brought his cupcake.
That's exactly
Mr.
right.
Parker gonna sing happy birthday?
Well, I think he's
Yeah.
taking him out to lunch or something after that. I'm not exactly sure, so,
Word was gonna sing to him, wasn't
he was, but, I don't know that I can stomach Mike singing anymore, so, all right, nothing else on the public comment. We'll go under old business, so the board entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So
Right
moved.
before. So motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Calhoun. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the like signs. Item 5, consent agenda. Does the board wish to entertain a motion for consent agenda? Motion to
Second.
approve by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with like signs. Item 6, Mr. John Sullivan, tax assessor. Mr. Cooper, would you mind stepping up and running through items A through D?
I will.
Thank you. Good
Morning,
morning. Good morning, Mr. Cooper.
All right, we've got item A, which is a petition for change of assessment of 21 real and personal property assessments.
Okay.
Uh,
Board wish to
Motion
entertain a motion. So motion by Mr. Morrison to approve item A,
Second.
second by Mr. Calhoun. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with light signs. Item A passes. Item B, Mr. Cooper.
Item B is a petition to adjust the 21 homestead exemption supplemental roll.
Okay. So board
Motion
wish to entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Mr. Calhoun, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with light signs. Item C, Mr. Cooper.
Yes, we have a request for authorization from the board attorney to seek court order voiding the tax sale, 2018 tax sale, and refund any taxes back to parcel number 874120. The parcel does not exist and has been erroneously assessed, and I think has gone to the tax sale. So
The
Motion
board wish
approved.
to entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Morrison for item C, second by Mr. Calhoun. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the like signs. Item C passes. Item D. Mr.
Item D,
Cooper.
which is the same parcel for 1920 tax sale, to refund them because it, like I said, that parcel didn't exist, so we just need to get their money back.
Your first item was because the 2018s are greater than or more than 3
3
years
years.
previous, and we can't refund those. This board does not have authority to refund something that is more than 3 years old. We have to ask the court for an order to do that. That's why that first item was for 2018. The 19s and the 20s are within the 3-year window, so the tax assessor through the board office can refund those erroneously paid taxes without any additional authority.
Okay. The board wish to entertain a motion for item D.
Motion approved.
So a motion to approve by Mr. Morrison,
Second.
second by Mr. Calhoun. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with the like signs. Item D passes. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Cooper.
gentlemen.
Item 7, Ms. Herring. Good morning. I'm good, thank you.
My first item this morning, I'm requesting approval of a copier contract with Rico for the Chancery Clerk's office.
Okay.
Make a motion
So
approved.
motion to approve by Mr. Calhoun, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the like signs. Item A passes. Item B, Ms. Herring.
It's requesting approval of a copier contract with Southern Duplicating for the coroner's office.
Okay.
Motion approved.
So motion to approve by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Calhoun. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with the like sign. Item C, Ms. Herring.
This is, I'm requesting approval of sole source with Motorola for the V300 body cams for the sheriff's department.
Okay. The board wish to entertain a motion.
Make
Motion
a
approved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Morrison.
second.
Second by Mr. Calhoun. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the like signs. Item D.
It's requesting approval of sole source with Zoll Medical for the auto pulse system with pass-through for EMS.
Okay. The board wish to entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
So a motion by Mr. Calhoun, second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with the like sign.
Thank you.
Item D passes. Thank you, Ms. Herring. Item 8, Mr. Harrison, birthday man.
Yes, sir.
Did you get a haircut for your birthday?
I did.
You look
I
good.
got a haircut for my birthday.
I like it. Well, happy birthday to you. Item A.
Thank you.
Mr. Harrison.
Take A and B together, AT&T permit. One is for District 2 area, and the other one is for District 4.
Okay. So the board wishes to entertain a motion for items A and B
So moved.
together by Mr. Morrison, second by myself. Any further discussion?
I'd like to ask the board to consider a conditional approval, with the condition being that, that this work will not ensue until we have a written commitment from AT&T that they do not intend to claim any damages from Rankin County for anything past, present, or future as it relates to any infrastructure that is in our right-of-way.
Okay. Mr. Morrison, you add that to your motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll add that.
Same with my second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed with the light signs? That was an amended motion by Mr. Morrison and myself. Item C, Mr. Harrison.
Request ceasefire utility permit to be constructed along Lake Village Circle.
All right. Board wish to entertain a motion for that.
Motion approved.
The motion approved by Mr. Morrison, second by myself. Any further discussion? Mr. Gaines?
Do we need similar on this?
Yeah.
We don't have the same issue with C Spire, Steve. This is really an AT&T deal. They have a bad habit of sicking either their own collections people or third-party collectors on the county for alleged damages to infrastructure that's improperly in our right-of-way to begin with, or improperly buried, not buried in accordance with the permit. And so invariably we'll have situations where we get into some of the AT&T infrastructure. But they like to offload and try to claim that back. And so I get tired of it. And I just want them on the record saying we're not intending to collect anything for damaged infrastructure in your right-of-way. We're not going to try to collect that. Okay. So I have a little extra bolster when I respond to them saying we're not paying.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item C passes, Mr. Harrison. Item D.
Request approval for Verizon Wireless utility. Daniel, this is gonna go right between the Kroger and the Sonic right there. It's gonna be a pole. They gonna shoot some Wi-Fi around right there, is what it is. They've submitted with PRB, and PRB's okay with it.
Is this the deal with the node you talking about? So they gonna put up a pole?
Yes, sir.
Where specifically?
Right there between the Kroger entrance and the Sonic and the Chevron or whatever it is right there at Spillway, Jay. There's a green area right there. They're gonna put it in, but it's gonna be on the back edge of our right of way.
Okay.
Really not gonna affect us.
All right. All right, I'll make a motion to approve item D.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the light sign. Mr. Harrison, anything else since it's your birthday?
I got additional business.
You wanna do it right now? Or
Well,
would you rather wait?
it depends on if y'all wanna push on through. I think Steve's got something.
You wanna wait? Or how do you wanna do it?
I'd rather, just mine's short.
Okay.
Tell us where we at with Andrew Chapel. It was really stretching, things were getting fuzzy, and then y'all met, and
So-
it looked like things really came together in the last month.
So we probably got over 50% of the job with base and surface on it. They're back working the driveways, working things back behind them, getting dressed up. We got 900 feet undercutting done last week. Got it back to 610, so it's ready for asphalt. We like about 800 more feet of just undercutting. It's not as aggressive, probably the lightest undercut we've got on the whole job, Steve. Probably a 2-foot undercut on it, so it should move pretty quickly. And then basically a little tearing up the asphalt, a little curve work right there at Trickham Bridge. Everything seems to be falling in place with the job.
Is this
right
work
now.
we're doing or the contractor's doing?
Contractors do.
Yeah, but you kept saying we.
Well,
Yes,
we like to watch them now.
Yeah, well, you kept saying we, so I wasn't sure.
We watching them very hard, but yes, everything's been going good. Communicated with Tim's inspector this morning, and I mean, everything's falling into place. Things seem to be working a lot better for the contractor.
Good.
All right.
Hey, under additional business, we'll have something else relating to a question, multipurpose building, so go think about that, and then we'll bring it up on additional business.
Okay.
Thank you.
But my additional might get a little lengthy, so I don't know whether you want to do it now. Or move
I was
on to
scared
it.
when Mr. Gaines mentioned Andrew Chapel.
Yeah,
We wanted to get
that's-
lengthy, so.
But I mean, it don't matter.
No, we'll do it on additional business, so we
Okay,
can
good.
run through the
Thank you. A lot of
hearings
people
with
in
people here. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Slay, we're back to you again. It's item 9.
I think we can group all
But
of
we can
these.
take
Yeah, just
items,
group 'em
while you're
up.
walking up there, we can take items A through E without
Yes, sir.
board objection and wrap them into a motion.
I'll make a motion,
So,
A through E.
motion by Mr. Calhoun to set public hearings for items A through E on the agenda.
for
June 2, 9
2nd.
o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Slay.
Okay.
We have, hang on, I'm sorry.
We got it.
We got, we need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the light sign. So we'll move to public hearings under item F, Mr.
Yes.
Slay.
Item
And I-
F will
and I-
be-
And I want to say one thing before. I know you're going to introduce it and tell us exactly what we're doing, so I didn't mean to cut you off right there. But I've spoken to Mr. Cockrell on the same issue right here, and he's not willing to place a billboard on that location right now. So I know this is dealing with Leonard Busby and Busby's companies
Yes,
in regards to a billboard at that location.
yes.
So I don't believe he's interested in placing one on there. But if Mr. Busby's here, he may want to speak at that point. But Mr. Slay, you can go ahead and introduce it, and we'll just kind of
Okay.
move from there.
So the property owner
Mm-hmm.
is not going to allow the placement of a billboard at
Yes,
this
sir.
location?
Yes,
Is that what
sir.
you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'll expand a little bit further on that same issue. I spoke to Mr. Cockrell, and they do an incredible job for us in the community at the reservoir, and are just a huge fan favorite out there for the people that are there. Do a great job with produce and really doing a great customer service job out there. And they don't want to do anything that's going to alter any kind of display that's out there that might cause some type of burden to people driving by or other issues in that same point. But for that same side, once we get through in this hearing and we
Yes.
get to that next spot, I would like for you to entertain the motion and idea of removing all billboards
Okay.
from Old Fannin Road.
All right, very good. So
One-
let's do
one of
it
the
this
com-
way.
One of the issues that I've had, and I will say this and I'll let you go here, is, and I've had a tremendous amount of comments on people at the reservoir not wanting billboards on Old Fannin Road. And I couldn't agree with you more. They're a nuisance to us to see every single day. Adding additional ones cause problems, but adding, or even allowing the billboards that exist right now does cause a problem from safety issues and things like that. So I would like to entertain you head down the route of exploring how we remove the existing billboards that are there on Old Fannin.
Gotcha.
as
So this
well.
would be sort of an informational type
Yes, sir.
a portion of our agenda here. You wouldn't be expected to take any action necessarily unless the board wanted to take action. So typically in situations where you have vested property interests, such as a billboard where you've got lease agreements that are in place between property owners and the billboard owner, where you've got situations where the billboard company actually owns the property and has a vested property right there, there is a process to provide for some sort of change that would recognize that a property interest is in play. And that, of course, triggers due process requirements and some other issues that have a constitutional flavor to them. And so if the board was interested in looking at a process where you eliminate the authority to place billboards in a given location where they have been permitted previously, you have to do that in a process that provides a time period for there to be an elimination, we would call it an elimination period, of the vested property right. You could take the position, no, we want them all gone and we want them gone now, but you would find yourself in a situation where you would be challenged in court to provide remuneration or compensation for a constitutional taking. So the way that you would avoid a constitutional taking claim is to provide for an elimination period, some period of time. So there's good examples of that all around us. Municipalities will typically do this when they're making adjustments to sign ordinances. We see that in many places. I can tell you that the city of Starkville would be an example. For those that are state folks, you may know that there are billboards and other signs within that municipality that are subject to, and in a given area along the 82 corridor there coming through Starkville. They imprinted an adjustment to their sign ordinance, and they allowed for a period of time for existing signs to remain through an elimination period. That elimination period ended up being almost 11 years. So they set a fairly lengthy elimination period before they implemented for all signs a new way of providing for signage along that corridor. And so I would suggest to you that if you're going to explore that, we need time. We need time to work with CMPDD to come up with a plan that accounts for the property interests that are in place, and then allows us to have an organized process to eliminate boards over a given period of time.
Yep.
And so if that's the way the board wants to go, it would probably be, Daniel, I think some of what is springing this up is activity related to some recent decisions made by the board to adjust your C3 billboard orientation along Old Fannin to provide for specific and more defined regulations, where instead of just treating all billboards along Old Fannin as grandfathered, you implemented a process that would provide for new billboards to be installed because of new technology, new aesthetics, ways of dealing with billboards that would allow them to better fit in the environment where they are, which is a little bit unique because there's so much residential there. And so I think some of this may be just simply the frustration of how much angst and turmoil has been created over just one application for one billboard in one place.
Well, and I think what it did also, it brought to light the matter of importance to the people that live at the reservoir, is the badgering view of billboards along Old Fannin Road.
Yeah.
That they don't like the appearance of them, they don't like how they're seen, they don't want it to look like the Las Vegas Strip up and down Old Fannin Road. And I couldn't agree with more of those people and those thoughts on the same point. We
Right.
don't want to be distractors to drivers. We want, obviously, attention on the roadways for the safety side of it. So I think it's really important that we look at that. That would be my wishes, and if I need to put that in a motion, I will. I don't know how we need to handle actually the public hearing itself. I'll let you kind of walk us through that.
Yeah.
And if I need to entertain a motion to go down that route, just trigger me at that point, and I'll do that.
So because we published for a public hearing, in light of the new information that you've given, it's obvious to me that when we get to the end of the public hearing, we know exactly what's going to happen here. The property owner has said no billboard. So the conditional use is for a specific location.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
And a specific board that would meet the requirements that you've already put in place. I think we're headed down the road of, ain't gonna be no billboard there. So we're gonna have the public hearing. We notice folks, we'll let them come forward and make their case. And because we've asked everybody to be here, we need to move forward with that. I'm not gonna cut off anyone from an
Absolutely.
opportunity to convince the board otherwise, although it seems pretty stupid when the property owner says you're not gonna put it there. So at any rate, we're gonna go ahead and have the conversation. I do wanna say this too, Mr. President, because I've been very surprised at how much activity about billboards has been brought to light by people in the billboard industry. Been very surprised by that. And so what has, and this is just my observation, kind of from a distance, but it's been interesting to watch the dynamics. People who are in the billboard industry are willing to basically say anything to keep a competitor from getting a board. That's very interesting to me. The people who probably would take advantage of an opportunity to get a board at that location is basically willing to say or do anything to keep it from happening. So that's an interesting dynamic about the industry itself that has been brought to light by this. That's my observation.
Well, and I'll add one thing to you that on Mr. Slay. I also want to praise again Mr. Cockrell for the same side of that, to show what kind of community leader he is in this area and how much he's thought of at the reservoir. When he saw there was any kind of controversy over it, he just simply said, hey, I won't do it. I want to be a good steward and a good person in our area. And so I praise him over and over for doing the right thing, stepping up every time, and being a great member of our community. So I do want to mention that on that point. So.
Right. At this time,
let's go into public hearings.
Yeah, we'll open
Mr.
that public hearing, and I'll just simply ask if there's anybody here who wants to speak on this matter of the Leonard Busby Company's conditional use permit request. Please step forward at this time, give your name and address.
So speaking in opposition. Yes, sir.
Opposition.
I'm actually, if the landowner has.
Come up to the mic.
Excuse me, if the landowner has.
State your name.
Hey, hang on, Mr. Baker. Are you in opposition yet?
Yes.
You are in opposition of the billboard?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Come on up then.
I'm
Yes, sir.
trying-
Come on up.
With regard to this public hearing,
Yes, sir.
if the landowner is withdrawing his application and the applicant has no standing to assert the same, there is no, why are we having a public hearing?
Well, we have people come in and want to make comments on it. So while we're here, we're going to let those people speak.
Okay, well, I'll let them speak and then I'll speak. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. People speaking in opposition for the Busby action. Anyone want to speak?
Anybody outside?
No, Janice.
Ms. Dean, we got everybody inside?
Yeah.
All right, hearing no action or no,
I will then.
you're back up again, Mr. Baker.
Well,
Come on up.
I don't know who's outside, I'm sorry.
Not anybody.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. With regard to the subject application, I would submit to the board that inasmuch as the landowner has, excuse me, I've got one other thing to get. Inasmuch as the landowner has withdrawn the application, and inasmuch as.
Are you, Mr. Baker, are you representing anyone or are you just?
Yes,
you're
I'm
speaking on
getting to
county?
that. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. President. Yes,
Sure.
sir, I represent the Lamar companies. Okay.
Billboard company, all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, sir.
Inasmuch as the landowner has withdrawn his application, and inasmuch as there is no one or person that would have standing at this point to assert a request for a conditional use with regard to the subject property, we would submit to the board that the application has been effectively withdrawn. I would point out to the board that with regard to the proposed request for conditional use, under section C3 of the county's zoning ordinance, particularly section 2102, that there is no identified use within the conditional use special exceptions that would accommodate the proposed use if it were to go forward today. And particularly, I would point out that under Section M, the catch-all, that in the event the board were to determine that this meets the standards as otherwise outlined in Section 2905.01, I would submit to the board that when looking at 2905.01, which requires that the application shall include the following, A through H, that information was not included within the conditional use application. I would further submit that under the special exceptions requirement under 2905, that the site plan requirements as provided in section 2907 through 2910 were not as well submitted to and in conjunction with the application. I would further submit that with regard to the proposed application, if you look at the requirements under C3 with regard to minimum yards, that in fact the application does not, the proposed location of the sign is not consistent with your minimum yard requirements in the C3. And there is no variance application presently before the board, so in so much as the board were to determine to grant a conditional use, which would be inconsistent with its ordinance, it would effectively also grant a variance which has not been properly noticed for hearing before the board today. I would further submit that with regard to the matters and things that are presented to the board, by the nature of the application itself, the burden of proof has not been established and cannot be established by the application, and the application is deficient in and of itself and inconsistent with the zoning ordinance. In the event the board determines to go forward on the application, we would submit that inasmuch as there is no landowner or interested party, relevant interested party involved, that in fact the application is not presently before the board. For purposes of the record, if necessary, we would ask that the video recording of this meeting be incorporated into the minutes of the action, that the application for conditional use together with all attachments and action before the Planning Commission also be incorporated, that the contents of the file of the zoning department regarding the application for conditional use be incorporated, that the application rezone the property at 1307 Old Fannin Road to C3 be incorporated into the record, that the video and audio recordings of the meeting of the board on March 7th and April 14th, 2022, including the public hearings and the actions related to rezoning the subject property 1307, together with the actions amending 2609.01 and 2609.05 of the Rankin County zoning ordinance, be incorporated into the action, that any applications to amend section 2609, including 2609.01 and 2609.05 of the Rankin County zoning ordinance, together with the files of the zoning department, be incorporated into the record, that a copy of the Rankin County's comprehensive plan in effect on March 6th and any amendments thereto through date be incorporated into the record, that Rankin County's official zoning map in effect on March 6th and any amendments thereto through May 16, 2002 be incorporated into the record, that a copy of Rankin County's zoning ordinance in effect on March 6, 2022 and all amendments thereto through May 16, 2022 be incorporated into the record, and that all documents and things in possession of the Rankin County Board of Supervisors related to this application and the ordinances rezoning the subject property to C3 and amending sections 2609.01 and 2609.05 be incorporated into the record. Thank you, Mr. President.
Absolutely, Mr. Baker. I see why you make all that big money now. That's a lot of words and a lot of numbers you put together for an application that no longer exists.
Mr. Baker, if he corrects all that, would you be for it?
Well, we'll just have to see, Mr.
Okay, I was just, you kind of lost me somewhere in there. I hope.
From the opening remarks, he lost. And Mr. Slay, I'm sure you tracked it all pretty simply, but we'll go into closing this public hearing to show no action taken, Mr. Slay? Or?
Unless somebody else has.
Does anybody else have any comment in regards to the public hearing on the Busby Company's conditional use permit?
Sure.
Yes, sir. Come on up. Good morning. If you would, just introduce yourself to the board, please.
Yes, my name is Leonard Busby.
Yes, sir.
Of Busby Companies. Under the present things that have happened here, we do meet all of the requirements in order to install a billboard, a digital billboard at this location, being a mile apart, going each direction on the same side of the road, plus the amendments that have been made to the zoning ordinance. And if my landowner was to ever change, I would like to proceed with it at that point. I think that there is a lot of customers out there that would like to look at other options when spending their money, if it can be done cheaper or whatever it might be. I just think it's a good thing in being competitive, and I'd like to be a part of it. That's what I do. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
We appreciate you coming in, Mr.
Thank
Rhodes.
you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Slade, close the public hearing. Do you need any action taken on that, or?
Yeah, what we need to establish here is that the applicant has withdrawn the application, and therefore there is no need for action on this request. I would suggest that we close the public hearing officially,
Okay.
and that the board simply indicate on its minutes that no action was required in light of the property owner's withdrawal of the application for the conditional use.
Yeah, also, Mr. Slade, I got Mr. Cockrell here. I may let him just add a comment or two real quick while I've got him here. That's for the record, Mr. Slade. Hey, good morning, Kyle.
Hey, good morning. Kyle Cockrell, Cockrell's Farmers Market. Back when I first bought the property back in 2015, we had a billboard on the property. All right, everything was good. A few trucks bumped it because it was so low and coming in and everything. It was just aggravating to me. Back then, I believe the Board of Supervisors didn't want billboards. That's what was told to me. So I said, well, I want to stick with the Board of Supervisors. If they don't want it, let's get it out. You know, that's money that was coming to me that I said sacrifice.
Right.
So, time rocks on. We had several different companies come, just like Old Fanning Road is busy and everything. A lot of different companies come and ask and everything. So, all down the road of my neighbors and stuff, this one company kept going and trying to put one up and everything. So I said, well, all right, if the Board of when I talked to my neighbor, I said, just tell them that the Board of Supervisors agree to it, you're fine with it. So everybody is trying to work with the supervisors. But what I think on this billboard sign, it don't make one difference to me if there's a billboard there or if it's not. It's what y'all want. Now I'm just as honest can be. I ain't said I did not want a billboard. I did not say that I wouldn't let any other company put one there. But when a guy looks at me and, can you cuss in here?
No, sir. Let's don't cuss in here.
When he tees you off, that's a different ball game. And if the board would see fit for a billboard to go up on 1307 Old Fanning Road, I'm with it. But if the board don't, I'm with it. That's just what kind of guy I am. And I want to tell y'all I appreciate y'all, and I do anything to help any of y'all. But it's just a bad situation.
But you wouldn't mind one being there?
No, sir. I wouldn't mind one being there. I think it'll help with a different company coming in to get all the playing field equal. Because everybody's scared of competition. Competition will make squirrel go round. I got a Kroger on one end and a Kroger on the other in a little bitty farmer's market. I mean, who's scared of competition? That keeps us all honest.
Amen.
So that's just my 2 cents.
How far is the next billboard?
You got one. You got a digital
Other side
at
of
the
the street.
You got a digital at the boat place.
Uh-huh.
you got a little,
Who owns the digital at the boat place?
I think Lamar, I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think, no, they don't have the one at the boat
Okay,
place.
okay.
That's,
No, that's Media Sign,
right.
Then you got Media Sign across the street. It's a little bitty sign. And then on down the road, you got Lamar. That's the way it goes.
I understand. So maybe some of the same people that are saying that you should not have one, already have one on that road.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
No
Oh, yeah.
question.
Oh, my, that is something. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Mr. Slay?
Yes, sir. So, just so.
I know
that
we've
the
been
record-
bogged down on item F for a little bit.
Yes, we
so
have.
Clean that up for me.
Just so the record is clear, the property owner has withdrawn the application for conditional use request and has eliminated a basis upon which the board could make a decision with respect to the request. The request is not standing before the board.
Okay.
And so we would simply show on the minutes that no action is being taken with respect to item F
Okay.
on the record. Just as a quick follow-up, Mr. President, so I don't lose the opportunity to clarify, I believe that the instructions are, although I'm looking at each of the five of you, am I to initiate a process to determine what it would look like to eliminate all billboards on Old Fannin Road? Should I initiate a process that gets us to a point where the board could eventually entertain action to do that?
That would be my wishes, but I don't want to hear from everybody else. So
Is this like in?
it's in the overlay. It's in the
It is
overlay district.
overlay
Mhm.
district.
It would only be on Old Fannin Road in the overlay district.
Can we get those people to let us know that overlay? Do they have a board?
No, sir,
There's
they
no
don't.
board.
There's not a
The board-
separate
The board basically is us.
Yeah. So this board operates within the framework of a special overlay district for that area that includes Old Fannin. And so what would have to happen is that this board would simply authorize the beginning, the research and the discussion points and the bringing together of a plan that would allow the board to consider. It's not making a decision, it's simply marshaling the information that gets us to a point of a decision, where that decision could be elimination of all billboards along Old Fannin.
Can we take maybe to the next meeting to?
Yes, sir.
Instead of
Yeah,
me
let's, I
doing a
don't wanna
knee
make a
jerk.
decision on that.
I mean, right off the hand, I'd like to see, because it's not my district and I don't travel it a lot. I'd like to see where we're talking about. Mark mentioned several items that are more regulatory stuff than maybe, I'd like to see, is this look like a danger or is there problems that, I need to know?
Yes, sir.
And why we would be so venomous about one when there's others, and I understand one makes too many maybe, but I hadn't went out there and looked. So if I could have a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would too, because I don't even notice them when I'm driving down it.
Yeah, me either, that's what I'm thinking the same thing, and golly,
Sure.
it's a big decision there.
Absolutely. One suggestion that I would make, now that the horse is out of the barn, as it relates to the potential,
Yeah.
I would strongly suggest that when we get to additional business, that we entertain potentially adding a discussion item and a potential action item under additional business to consider a moratorium on consideration of any applications for billboards on Old Fannin of any kind, whether they be a rezoning request of some kind or a conditional use application of some kind, simply a fix for a short period of time to get us through the point of decision, maybe 90 days.
Temporary
Yeah, it's temporary, absolutely. So 90 to 180 days, maybe somewhere in that range.
Well, and I think we could place that on the agenda for the planning commission on the next meeting.
Yes, sir, we can put it on the next.
There, we can talk about that, have a better.
The only issue,
And give you
Daniel,
good
is
discretion
that
on that.
any applications that precede the board's action to establish a moratorium will have to be acted on. And so there will be a rush to get up under the curtain,
Yeah,
so to
that'd be better
speak,
to
before
do
the
a
curtain
moratorium.
drops. So I just want to make sure the board is completely aware. I would anticipate that you're going to get a number of applications
quickly.
for action before the work session.
Well, I don't know necessarily that, Jay, help me on that. There's not a lot of other places that can go, right?
Yeah,
In the
there
current
is.
area? There's 2 other locations?
Well,
3?
this is the way it reads right now. It could be one right next door. Cause
They
that
could come
is a
in.
C3 lot,
So
right
they
next door
could
to it.
apply for one there as well.
I think it's gonna be inside that 1.5 mile radius though, Jay, so I don't think a new consideration would work there.
Unless
under
it was
your
on the
current
same side of the road,
context.
though, you're right, Jay, it
Yeah.
might.
Since
Yeah.
we don't have
Yeah, this is just simply a protective measure. It doesn't do anything other than say, the playing field will stay exactly like it is for a short period of time until the board can get a handle on what it wants to do. And we don't have a rush of applications that the board would be responsible to act on
I mean,
before it is ready to set
I'd be willing to do
rules.
that for 30 days or so. Just for 30 days
Yeah.
until we can meet in the planning commission meeting
I
and
think-
give Slay some direction.
So
I-
we're gonna add that, Mr. President, with the board's indulgence, that's gonna be
Under
another item
additional
under
business?
additional business today,
Okay.
is the potential that we would add that item, and it would be a discussion and action item.
All right.
Give me 2 seconds here to get my notes.
And we just hit it on the planning commission meeting.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Slade, now we'll go to item G.
Yes, sir.
And we have a large crowd there. If you are in here for a public hearing and you are done, that is settled. Please exit the room. 'cause I
Yep,
gotta
we need your
turn
seat.
on. You don't need your chairs.
Mr. President, item G is a public hearing on the Martin O'Neill rezoning request. This is on Ben Chapman Road in District 3. I understand that we have a number of property owners who wish to be present for this public hearing, so I'll delay for just a moment to give them an opportunity to get in the room.
Hey, Brad, what's this about?
That rezoning the property over there on,
Large lots served by a private drive.
Is it one of them we're gonna make them do the road and all that?
yeah.
This is one where they have a road maintenance agreement.
Already?
Well, yeah, it'll be a part of the development, actually. Breaking it up into 16 large lots.
Is that all three lots?
It's near.
It backs up to it, I think.
They don't want
They don't want development.
They got standing up.
Okay. Spring water trying to sell
In the
some.
White Shirt?
No, they don't
Brad.
He works for Andy. Works for Andy.
Yeah, there's uncertainty about access.
Alright. They could throw a gate up, huh?
Yes, sir. Possible.
There's some chairs around front if y'all wanna come sit down.
Yeah, several up front.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. We are opening the public hearing on the Martin O'Neill rezoning request. This is on Ben Chapman Road, District 3 property. Mr. O'Neill is seeking to rezone 3 parcels at the end of Ben Chapman Road from A2 to RE1. He is proposing a large lot development of 10 acres or larger on a 237 acre proposed development and a future development of 2 adjoining parcels that total 618 acres. The survey plat for the 237 acre parcel shows 16 lots. A set of restrictive covenants is included with the application. The covenants state that no lot can be less than 10 acres in size. No lot shall be re-subdivided without the consent of the Board of Supervisors. The minimum heated and cooled living area under roof is 2,000 square feet. The road will be maintained by the developer until 50% of the property has been sold, and then the Property Owners Association will have the sole responsibility for maintenance of the accesses that are not already public. Property was posted, the hearing notice has been published in the paper, and we have received calls in opposition on this matter. I have a set of, let me walk you through the rezoning requirements first. Generally, gentlemen, as you know, there are specific criteria that must be met by an applicant who seeks a rezoning. There are two ways under Mississippi law to establish a basis for rezoning, a justification for rezoning. One, which is not in play here, is that the property was originally zoned in a mistaken fashion. That's not in play here. The other is to show or demonstrate through the record itself that the character of the neighborhood has changed to such an extent as to justify reclassification. And in addition, there is a public need for the property in the zoning context for which the request is made. In other words, for properties in this area to be zoned to go from an ag context to an RE1 or residential estate context, which would allow for subdivision development. The gentleman who, Mr. O'Neill, who is wishing to rezone, is burdened with the reality that in order to provide for a subdivision development, the property cannot remain zoned ag. We don't allow that under our zoning ordinance. So in order for him to develop a subdivision, he would have to have the property rezoned to at least RE1, which is what is proposed here. Large lot development served by private access off of a public road called Ben Chapman. There is future development shown on the proposed plat. It's undefined. There are no lots laid out. There is no presentation in the future development section of the specific means of access to the area that is future development. Okay? And so there have been a number of calls that have asked the question, how is it that the people who live there will be able to access the property to get to their home? And so I think that's probably going to be one of the issues that is raised. So now that I've given you the basis for the rezoning, I would ask Mr. O'Neill or someone representing Mr. O'Neill to come forward at this time and to be prepared to walk the board through the justifications for the rezoning request. And then after that, we will have an opportunity for anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to step forward, to introduce themselves and give their address, and they can also explain to the board why.
Mr. Slate, why are you up there? I mean, the only thing I'm going to consider today is the 237. The futures, until we get a plat and some kind of road plan deal, I'm not willing to do the future development.
Yes.
So the 237 with the 16 lots
Yes, sir.
that's been platted, that was submitted to us a month or so ago.
Yes, sir.
That's the only thing I'm going to be considering.
If you think it would be helpful as well, Mr. Calhoun, the staff has a number of conditions that we would propose that relate to this action. If you think it would be helpful, and it may answer some questions.
All right.
We would walk through those at this point.
Let's go ahead and
before
walk
Mr.
through
O'Neill
those.
comes.
So
All right.
blacktop gonna be one of those?
I don't think that is going to be one of the requirements, Jay. It's not listed here because it's going to remain private and be privately maintained.
Up to county standards, though.
What county standards is blacktop?
It is.
Well, Ben
don't have
Chapman
a
Road
standard
is
for
a gravel road.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, so before the zoning change goes into effect, we would require that all property owners within the future development, and this would relate to the future development, but you're already saying that we're not going to consider that. But I do mention this, Brad, because this may help folks that are concerned about what's going to happen with that future development property. The board is very concerned about access to that property in particular. And so we would want the manner of access to the future development area to be nailed down. Whatever that issue is has got to be resolved so that there is no question about the means of access to the future development area. The board will want all of the accesses to the 16 lots that are under consideration. That is the only section of the proposal that will actually be rezoned. If the board agrees to rezone it, those 16 lots will all be accessed from Ben Chapman Road, and they will all, both ingress and egress will be from Ben Chapman. There will be no access across any other properties, the future development section or beyond. All access to the 16 lots will come from the direction of Ben Chapman Road to and from. That would be a condition. We would require the developer, if the board chooses to rezone the property and allow the first phase, the 16 lots, to move forward for development, we would require the developer to obtain a certificate from the appropriate water distributor, whoever that is. If it's the city of Puckett, if it is some other private water association, we're going to require the developer to provide some form of confirmation that water will be supplied to this development. We're going to require that. And we need the covenants to specifically state, and they may, I haven't had a chance to review them, but we need the covenants to specifically state that there would be no manufactured housing, no mobile homes in this development. Okay? So those would be the three conditions that the staff would propose before we can proceed. This time I'll ask Mr. O'Neill or someone representing Mr. O'Neill to come forward and establish the justification for the rezoning request.
Apparently,
All right.
he didn't want to show.
Mr. O'Neill, are you here?
Not here.
This is the one asking?
I'll go double check.
Double check, Ms. Janice?
That kind of ends that.
So he's the one asking for the rezoning,
Yep.
didn't show up?
Correct.
Just got the buzz right there.
All right, Ms. Janice says no, Mr. Slay. You want to,
You have an application before you, but in my opinion, the application doesn't clearly and adequately establish a justification for the rezoning. I don't believe at this stage that we are prepared to move forward with consideration. I would ask you to consider it's simply establishing on your minutes that no action is taken and that the application has not been considered.
okay. So entertain that motion by
And I'll make a
Mr. Calhoun.
motion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the light sign?
Sorry y'all came out for that.
Other discussion, we voted,
Yep.
but with additional traffic, there looks like there's some development out there on that road already.
Yes, sir, that's right. The
If
parcels
you
that have been,
think that that road is gonna stay in that condition, when you add another, I don't know how many, 30 vehicles
At least.
a day, twice a day, maintenance is,
that's an issue.
it's
Steve.
more than you probably think it is.
Correct.
So I would, y'all consider that, what's that gonna be like in 10 years from now?
Yep.
Now, the folks that are here today are the spring water group that don't even access Ben Chapman. Ben Chapman's got one home and one other, house on that Ben Chapman Road,
Yep.
which is about 2 miles long, gravel road. But the county maintains it as far as putting a motor grader on it, and that's about it.
So it is a county road?
Yes.
Yeah, but who you saying,
Yeah.
you put
To
another
a point,
15, another,
To a point.
30-plus cars on it. It's gonna be a constant maintenance.
The housing that is currently there, the houses that exist on Ben Chapman have access to Ben Chapman. They have access to a public
Right.
road. This proposed development would lead to a situation where a number of the developed lots would have no access to a public road. That's an issue.
That's kinda what I was thinking.
Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely,
that's
sir.
the same thing like
Yeah,
spring.
road maintenance agreements, it's the same thing we dealt with
Private road.
previously,
They gotta
Gary.
still be able to get to the public road.
Yes, sir. They access that by a common means of access that's shown in their granting instruments, in their deeds. They would have access to Ben Chapman from a dedicated right-of-way or easement that is either maintained by the developer or maintained by the homeowners association.
Their driveways would come off of that road.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
There's a 70-foot easement that we requested O'Neill to give the county, or wouldn't be deeded to the property owners as he sold the property. 60-foot was for the right-of-way, 10-foot was for a utility easement.
Correct. At some point, this board would be dealing with a situation that it often deals with, like this, where it is asked to assume responsibility for a road that has not been constructed to our standards. We face that constantly. And so what we were trying to do here is to recognize a couple of things. This is rural. It's very rural in its orientation. It is very large lots with a minimization of the number of housetops that would be there, and therefore a minimization of the amount of traffic that could serve that area. And it doesn't have adequate utility infrastructure to support more dense development. So if it's going to develop, it's going to have to develop in a, what I will call a non-standard way. Very large lots, potentially some of the houses served by wells for water supply. Even water associations are not delivering utilities to these areas, right? So if it's going to develop, it's going to have to be slow.
It can work. Where I live, there's some people that are on wells.
Yes.
And there's some drives that are similar to what we're talking
Yes.
about. And I'm aware of some that when they bought and moved, they didn't realize really what they were getting into.
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna go with Brad. It's his district and he's familiar. And I'd like to ride out there with him and let him show me what we're talking about. And,
Absolutely.
But anyhow, these people are not the people I'm talking to.
I think they
understand
were
that now.
ready to express concerns.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that it's the same concerns that this board has already identified and lives with on a daily basis. You guys are careful about not letting something move forward until we have really strong and documented answers to a lot of these kinds of questions. The truth of the matter is this: none of the property in the rural areas of Rankin County are going to develop until there is adequate infrastructure to allow it to develop. They're just not going to. They're going to be really big lots, and it's going to be understood that if you get in trouble in some of these areas, it's going to be a while before the ambulance gets there, or the fire truck. And if the fire truck is able to get there in a timely manner, your access may not be adequate enough to hold up an 80,000-pound fire truck.
But you know that you can say all that, but when that time comes and there's a tragedy, they're gonna be right back here. Why?
Yep.
You know that.
That's why we have to be careful.
Yeah. And if you got and this road, the main road they're traveling, even though you're still gonna put traffic on that road, you know, then it's gonna come up. We got that's our access. When we're gonna pave this road. But I mean, you know that's coming.
We have a delicate balance, don't we?
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't blame them a bit if they came back and said that. I mean, I understand that. Now we got 16 homes out here.
Hopefully
and we're gonna have more.
purchase land.
I know y'all didn't come to hear all that, but anyway, we're sorry you came. I mean,
Well, at least this gives us some time.
Yes, sir.
And maybe to understand better and.
Has there been more than one lot purchased in the room?
Nobody's purchased, I mean, there was some property, he sold some property that had frontage to Ben Chapman before we called it, because they started calling, wanting addresses. And I think two of them were around 40 acres and one 25 acre. But they were assuming, I think were told that the property had utilities already there. There are utilities, but it's not enough of water pressure to provide water to all these other homes.
I got you.
So, I mean.
What about the two that bought? What do we do with them?
I mean,
There's nothing we can do, Jay, other than to control it through our addressing. And so in our addressing area, we know we're not going to release any additional addresses for those parcels as if they were to be subdivided. We're not going to release any addresses until we have an opportunity to sit down with the property owner and better define what's going to be done.
So the water line basically had to be upgraded.
Yes, sir.
Upgraded, or you're going to go
Yes,
with the
sir.
well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's something, I mean, is going to be worked out with the Water Association or they, I mean, I think they got a good case if they want to go back to court. Go to court.
I don't really want to open up the door, but I'm really kind of curious, what are the concerns of the people? I guess we wait till we have this officially, if it comes up again.
Mr. Bill, do you mind coming up just a minute?
I'm curious, what's the concern?
Mr. Bill's kind of mayor of Springwater out there, so we'll leave him.
Okay.
How you doing, Mr. Bill? If you would, just introduce yourself.
I'm
to the
Bill
board.
Holden.
Yeah, and your address, please, sir.
How you doing, Bill?
Gosh, what is my wife's not here. Let me think.
That's all right.
Yeah, they all know where I live.
We got you. We'll find you.
Springwater Ranch.
Yes, sir. That's good enough.
Yeah.
What's the question?
Now, my question, Mr. Bill, we're not taking any action today, but if we were to take action on the 237 acres, the 16 lots that have been provided to the county, that all access, ingress, egress would be from Ben Chapman Road, does the group have an issue with that?
No.
Okay,
Sole ingress, egress, Ben Chapman.
that's right.
No, I understand that.
The 237 that was already been provided,
Then we
that's
have
been
no,
platted.
we have no problem.
So the only
Is that
issue, the only issue is, I see one back there that might have an issue, but, so the future development, that's what y'all are
That's the
concerned.
problem.
And that's the issue, that's something I've told Mr. Tom and you both, that's something that the court's going to have to work out on that. But anything as far as the board will have to come from either the Ben Chapman access is what we're gonna make one of our stipulations.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So nobody really has a problem with the Ben Chapman access?
Okay. Come forward, eh? Thank you, Mr. Bill.
Hey, you just sneak in back in the back back there, off the radar scope. How you doing?
Hayes Patrick, 824 Lewis Wilson Drive, Brandon. So the concerns that you all brought up are exactly true. So Ben Chapman Road is a dirt road, and most of it is just a one lane. And my family has property at the end of it, and there's just like there's one homeowner that has a house on it. There's a couple of families here that just bought property on there. And I mean, just us to share the road, we watch a distance ahead. We all pull over so everybody else can come by. That's the dynamic of it right now. And so when you add what you're potentially trying to add, it won't happen. I mean, it won't work, not safely. And I mean, I'm okay for growth and those types of things, but to qualify for a rezoning to meet the standard of a change in a community, we're at the end of a dead-end dirt road. And the change of that community is we all are farmers down there, cattle, timber. We're not raising houses down there. That's not the change of the community will happen if you rezoned it. But to meet the standard that's being asked, I don't think it qualifies for that. And I mean, I understand you tabling it, but I thought that it had enough merit not to qualify to be voted down.
What if the road had, so you're saying basically road need to be upgraded?
So what?
Basically,
in order for us to have a legitimate road for that many houses down there, the county will have to. You can keep it dirt, but you're going to have to either come into our properties all along the way, but you're going to have to widen
Buy
the road.
more right of ways, which
Or a developer will.
Developer will.
Well, on the county road, they wouldn't. Now, he will I don't think that your developer would do that on a county road.
Well, you said the county road's too narrow?
Okay, sorry.
The county road is too narrow?
Yeah, that 2 mile road, you can't, it is a one lane road.
He would have to.
Yes, sir.
It's
He
a-
might put that.
Can require a developer to improve a public road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, just for the safety, and I mean, I'm not blowing smoke, but just for the safety for my kids, it's driving up and down that road on 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, there are some sharp turns and things like that. It is strictly a one lane road, and to invite all these people there. And like this, and I was an alderman in Puckett for 9 years, and I know the city of Puckett has no interest to spend $350,000 to put water down that road, so there's that issue as well. So that's my concern. Thanks, guys.
appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Hayes. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. If you're here and you want to say a few things since you made the trip, we're definitely going to let you talk. So good morning. If you would just introduce yourself to the board with your name and address, please, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Cherie Prince. I'm an attorney here in Rankin County. My office is over in Flowood, and I represent several of the interested and adjacent landowners out there. One being Mr. Holden, who you've heard from this morning, Tom Roden, Raymond Duke, Kelly Nichols, and Aaron Evans. The landowners that I represent are, in the most part, in agreement with what the department has recommended here today. But there are some other things that I feel that this board should consider before they make a final decision. I think the recommendation was to table this matter.
No, the matter is not going to be considered at all. The application is not going to be considered. There is no tabling. We're not coming back to decide anything. The applicant didn't show up. It doesn't meet the standards for justifying a rezoning. The board's taking no action and there is no application. Okay. If the applicant wishes to restart the process, he's welcome to do so. But we're going to start all over.
Well, that was my recommendation, so
Okay.
All right.
thank
All
you.
right.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Slade.
great legal work.
Yeah, legal minds work together.
All right.
Congratulations, Ms. Prince. You convinced me.
Yeah. The roads.
All right,
like the biggest
Mr.
issue.
Slade.
That's narrow roads.
We will
We need to show on the record.
navigate us through on the record how we need to handle item G, please.
We're officially showing that the public hearing is closed. I'm asking the board, and I think that you've already voted, to take no action on the application, that there has not been a substantial showing of a justification for the rezoning request, and therefore there will be no action considered. If the applicant wishes to start over with the process, he is free to do so, but it is going to be starting all over again with a new application.
Okay. Mr. Calhoun? So, Mr. Slade,
We don't need
just
no
track with me. You need a motion by Mr. Calhoun to do that, or just?
We'll work with you
Just
somehow.
keep on doing what you're doing.
I think he made a motion, so I would just simply
Thank y'all.
ask, is Brad willing to amend the motion so that it reflects precisely what I just indicated?
I'll amend my motion to
All right.
add what you just said.
All right,
Jared, I
so
think
motion by Mr.
seconded it.
Calhoun.
Huh?
Did you second that?
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed with the light sign. So item G is now closed. Mr. Slade, it's going pretty good this
All right.
morning, so
Yes,
we'll
sir.
go to item H.
I'm going to try my best to move us right on through here. Item H is a public hearing on the Ryan Murphy conditional use permit.
Hey, Mr. Slade, I'm gonna pause you just 1 second while they leave the room, and Miss Janice is gonna check to see if we have anybody inside, or outside in the lobby to come inside. Senator Harkins, good to see you. You slipped in under the covers over there. How you doing?
Mr. President, while we're waiting on them, if we can move through items H, I, J, and K, which are public hearings, I think that's going to clear us from the folks who are with us today, our constituents. I would like for the board to consider a quick executive session right after item K.
Okay.
And then, literally, I expect that to take about 15 minutes, and then we can come back and take the rest of the agenda if you're willing to do that.
Yes, sir. We don't have anybody else waiting then, right?
Yeah, that
Okay,
guy.
perfect.
I think when we get through K, we'll have everybody who's here
Okay.
dealt with,
All right.
constituents.
I didn't know our agenda was gonna be so packed for you today, David. We'll have our demo eventually.
Been here, done that, I understand.
I didn't think he was
What are we all in here for? What's this one on?
It's gonna be.
Oh, I know that. Done.
Yeah.
Okay. thank
All
you.
right, Mr. Slade, if you would proceed with item H under
Yes,
our
sir.
agenda, please.
All right. We will open a public hearing on the Ryan Murphy conditional use permit, 6694 Highway 25, this is District 2 property. Mr. Murphy is seeking a conditional use permit to operate a landscape/farm supply store and a landscape business in the currently existing Duncan Marine building, which is located at 6694 Highway 25. It's a 4.16 acre parcel. The property is zoned C2, general commercial. Landscape farm supply store will be in the main building at the front of the parcel, the part of the structures that are closest to Highway 25. The secondary building in the rear of the property will be used for the landscape business. This property was posted in the public notice was published in the newspaper. We received one email in opposition to this. Is that right, Renee? Okay. One email in opposition to this. Gentlemen, as you know, in order for you to grant a conditional use permit, you have a number of considerations that you walk through that need to be established by the applicant. First, ingress, egress to the property and the proposed structures with particular reference to vehicular and pedestrian safety and convenience, traffic flow control, access in case of fire catastrophe. Because this is attenuated Highway 25, it's Mississippi Highway 25, it's an MDOT highway, and there are limitations on access, and it's controlled access at points along there. Most of your ingress egress issues are beyond your purview anyway. This property is served by a frontage road at the same time, and so it appears that the ingress egress issues have been handled. Off-street parking, loading areas, that doesn't apply here. Refuse and service areas, we can have that addressed. Utilities with reference to locations, availability, compatibility. There's an existing building here that is adequately served by utilities. Screening, buffering with reference to dimensions and character, that may be in play here. The required yards, setbacks, other open space. General compatibility with adjacent properties, that's generally a big one. Any other provision deemed necessary by the Board of Supervisors, that's our catch-all. And so we would ask, we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there is anyone here to speak in opposition to the Ryan Murphy conditional use permit request. Anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter. I know that Mr. Murphy is present. I have some proposed conditions that I'd like to walk the board through at your convenience.
Yeah, Mr. Slay, I do want to add one thing. I know you mentioned you did have one email regards in opposition of the conditional use for Mr. Murphy's actions. I've had numerous phone calls. Just want to add that to the record on people against and not for the conditional use there by Mr. Murphy. I just want to add that to the record as well.
Okay. So the staff has considered the conditional use permit request and is prepared to offer the following conditions. We would request that the board make the conditional use permit, make that term limited for one period of 1 year from the date of issuance, and give the board an opportunity to effectively reconsider the conditional use permit at the end of that 1 year period. This would give us an opportunity to make sure that any of the additional conditions that the board may wish to implement here are carried out, and any conditions that would be restrictive in nature, such as where things happen on the property, or any other conditions that the board wishes to set, are actually being followed. Okay? The conditional use permit then would expire 1 year from the date of issuance unless the applicant files a request for renewal with the Rankin County Office of Community Development, and the request for renewal must be filed within 30 days prior to the expiration of the conditional use permit. Otherwise, the applicant will be required to apply for a new conditional use permit and pay all of the fees associated with that. There'd be no requirement of paying fees for just simply requesting the renewal, but there is a process to request the renewal. The third condition would be that there can be no display or storage of any materials, personal property, items offered for sale at a point located outside of the boundary fence for this property as it is currently located on the property. So all display must be inside the boundary fence that is currently in place on the property. So the applicant will not be able to extend the boundary fence and feel like he's in compliance. He has to go with exactly where it's located today, and we'll make sure that that's clear. All right, at this point, do you have any questions of the applicant? Those are the conditions that the staff is providing.
I have one question, just about the before we get into it, the layout in general. There was some storage there?
Yes,
So,
that's correct.
And that's been separated, correct? So is there a route to and from the storage? Does that go through the property, or do they have a separate access?
It is off the front of that property.
We've approved several conditional uses for
Right,
Mr.
that's what I'm
Smith
saying, but
in the past.
I know this is separate, but, so we're not going to create a hazard by doing this. with traffic, like the way it's being proposed, I think they wanna do the farmer's market or sell their wares out of the backside.
Front is what I understand. In the front building
Yeah,
is where he's gonna sell the, co-op type products.
Okay.
He's gonna keep his landscape business in the rear.
oh, I'm with you.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So we're talking about outside displays, really, Jay?
I'm with you.
And so we just want to make it clear that any outside display has got to be inside the boundary fence. It can't be outside the we have, I think the current occupants have been displaying some equipment or other items out very close to the frontage road. And so we want to retrace now, go back and reset that and say that any outside displays have got to be inside the boundary fence.
Okay.
Okay, you understand that, Ryan? You okay with that? All right, so it's a 1-year trigger mechanism on this. It's got to be renewed. This helps us to make sure that we get good compliance. And then we'll reconsider it a year from now and possibly extend it then either indefinitely if we're getting good compliance or a renewal type process that lets us keep a good track on that.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve, with the conditions that's set forth, and, that's my motion.
All right, so the board entertains a motion by Mr. Calhoun,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Morrison. Further discussion? I want to add one thing on further discussion from my vantage point. In the past, in my short time at the board, we've had some issues with you, Mr. Murphy, regards and across the street on some things that really didn't go the right way. It should have gone down. And I'm very disappointed in how we handled that stuff across the street. And I say across the street because it wasn't in my district, it was in Mr. Gaines' district. In regards to some dirt pits and some traffic and being a good steward of that community. And I'm very disappointed in that action. So I want to mention that, and that's going to be my opposition to it because I don't have faith in the new system that you're going to put in place over here. So that's why I'm against it. It's our past track record. And I hope that I'm proven wrong over the next year and a half, that you are a good steward to the area and to the tax dollars here in Rankin County. We had to spend a lot of money cleaning up the mess that was caused across the street over there in the other district. And I say across the street, I'm talking about across 25. It's not in my district, in Mr. Gaines' area. So I'm still holding a little bit of heartburn for that. So I'm hesitant on any kind of conditional use involving you guys. So that's Daniel's hesitation. So anything else?
I want to add something too. I agree with what he's saying, and I hope you do what you say you're going to do. I feel like you will. But the one reason I don't think it's fair for somebody to sacrifice and on you selling this property because of your mistakes. And so it really wasn't. I'm trying not to put the two together at all. And that's why I separated. And I think it's a second motion to approve this because it's two different situations in my opinion. However, you have created some problems on the other side, but now's your time to get it right. But it wasn't fair to hold it against somebody else because of your mistake. And so that's where I am. But I do agree with where we are with this, and I hope you. I've heard good things about you, and then I've heard some bad things about you. But I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and making it right now.
I echo Daniel totally. The 1 year will be really good, I think, and it will hold Mr. Murphy to a plan, and I think everything will be fine. I'm glad we can do this, and Mr. Eddie can stop worrying about it because I know it's worried him a lot. I've had several people to tell me. I've prayed about this for about 2 weeks, and I think the board is fixing to handle it the right way, and I hope Mr. Murphy handles it the right way from here on.
Excellent.
All right. Anything
Any
else
other
for
comments?
discussion?
Any questions?
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the light sign. So I'll vote nay.
Nay.
So that's
3-2.
Me and Mr. Gaines vote against.
All right.
So
That
the
matter
public
is
hearing
now
was
closed, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. I'm
Close that
sorry. I
public
should have closed the
hearing.
public hearing before we did it.
Very
I'm
good.
sorry.
Thank
So
you.
public hearing's closed. Move on to item number I.
Item I is the public hearing on the Robert M. Foxworth conditional use permit. This is at 141 Builder Square. This is District 4 property. Mr. Foxworth, Miss Janice?
She's
I know
gathering.
Mr. Foxworth was here. I saw him in the hall
Is she
coming in.
wrangling?
Maybe so. That's been a couple hours ago when I saw him, though,
Yeah.
so I don't.
Mr. President, while we're waiting for the crowd, I got a phone call late last night from one of the property owners, or one of the individuals who is a member of an entity that owns property at Builder Square and has a family business at Builder Square, which is what we're fixing to start talking about. And unfortunately, this member of this entity that is a property owner advised me that she contracted the virus. She contracted the virus on Friday, got tested on Saturday, and it came back, the results came back late yesterday afternoon. So the second she knew that she had the virus, she contacted me. This is an individual affiliated with a property owner that is actively in opposition to this conditional use request, and was very concerned that her position on this could not be adequately documented because of this public hearing. And so all I indicated was that I would make sure that the board was aware that there are individuals who wish to be present to speak in opposition to this conditional use request who cannot be here. Thankfully, they decided not to come.
Yeah, I don't know where they'd sit.
And the virus situation is a significant piece of that, and I expressed appreciation for her not coming and exposing the rest of us to that situation. And so I just wanted to make that clear to the board.
All right,
So
thank you, Mr. Slade. Item I, so.
we will open that public hearing. Robert Foxworth is seeking a conditional use permit to operate an art gallery in the lobby area and private studio / tattooing parlor in the office spaces at 141 Builder Square. This is a 1.06 acre parcel. Property is zoned C3, Major Thoroughfare Commercial District, so it's currently zoned C3. Tattoo parlors are listed as a conditional use in a C2 zone. A conditional use permit is also required in our C3 Major Thoroughfares Commercial District. The sign for the business is not to have any reference or the word tattoo mentioned. It will read Blackmore Gallery. That's the signage for this. There is no walk-in traffic. All clients are scheduled by appointment only. The business will have normal business hours and close no later than 9 p.m. The property was posted. A hearing notice was published in the newspaper. At the time that this was printed, we had received 2 calls in opposition and 17 emails in support of and a request that the emails be made a part of the record. And so Ms. Renee has those already here at the ready. And so there may have been additional contacts after Ms. Renee's cheat sheets were put together for me. So if that's the case, then I stand to be corrected on that. I know that I received 1 call that was probably not listed as one of the calls here, and so there may have been more. And so we'll open that public hearing. And I will ask if there is anyone here to speak in opposition to the Robert Foxworth conditional use permit request. Please step forward, introduce yourself to the board, and give your address. Opposition to the request.
Yes, sir. Come on up. Hey, good morning, sir. If you would, just introduce yourself to the board, your name and address,
Yes,
please.
sir. My name is Jimmy Johnston. I reside at 1820 Highway 471. And my
Good morning.
business is located at 115 Builder Square Drive.
Okay, thank you.
We've been there about 12 years, I think, 10 to 12 years. I wanted to share a few things with the board that since we've been there, the zoning that has been in place has functioned pretty good. Within the last year, there have been businesses and property that have been bought and sold. So I think that when the market responds and tells you that an area is sought after and people are willing to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, that's a pretty good report card on the zoning and how it's functioning. So the board has done a good job, and I think the results are in place out there. Additionally, the board has done an overlay on that road. I believe that was done last year, maybe last summer. So the county's made an additional investment in securing that area, making sure that the ingress and egress is proper. So I think that not only have the individual businesses made their contributions, I think that the county's made its contribution too. I would ask that the Board of Supervisors continue to be good stewards. Please protect us in that area. You get an A so far, and I would thank you for those efforts. We believe that if this variance was granted, that there's a possibility that you may see additional conditional uses in the short future. I would not want to see the board in the capacity of having to say yes to one, no to another, even though that power certainly rests within you. As one thing on Mr. Slade to follow up, the person he was mentioning was actually my sister.
Yeah.
And we found out 48 hours ago that she had contracted COVID. I spoke with her yesterday, and she is not in good shape. With that said, I would also offer that she represents a client and has a parcel of property for sale. And this gentleman's name is Chris Helms. He sent her an email that she wanted to convey to the board. I'm just offering this if the board has interest in hearing it. It's a one-liner. This guy is, I think he's pretty clear. Would you like for me to share that?
If you'd like to read it,
Okay.
I'll be glad to let you read it.
Basically says, Dear Rankin County Board of Supervisors, I, Chris Helms, owner of 104 Builder Square, oppose the approval of a tattoo parlor permit.
Okay.
That's
Great, thank you. Thank you for your comments this morning.
okay.
Yes, sir.
In closing, I would ask you guys to please deny that and continue to protect the area.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in opposition? Yes, sir. Come on up.
And while he's coming, Renee, this is a conditional use, isn't it? Not a variance. Okay, that's right.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Morning.
If you would, just introduce yourself to the board, your name and address, please.
William Dearman, 16604 Perdido Key Drive, Pensacola, Florida. I also am owner of 131 Builder Square Drive. Been an owner of that property since 2007. So I'm actually the original building that was on Builder Square Drive. I oppose the variance. Basically, I can guarantee you that I would not have considered purchasing this property if a tattoo parlor would have been located next door to my property. So basically, I asked the board to deny the request.
Okay. Thank you for your comments this morning.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else in opposition? Yes, sir. Come on up. Hey, good morning, sir. Good. If you would, just introduce yourself again to the board with your name and
My name
address.
is Robert Maley. I live at 102 Grandview Circle, Palisades subdivision in Brandon. I own 112 Builder Square. I have about $1 million worth of investment in this property out there. I'm directly across the street from this location. I oppose the tattoo parlor. I don't oppose people that have tattoos, but like any other businesses, it seems to me you have a red light district where you have casinos, strip clubs, tattoo parlors, bars. That's all fine. I just don't want it across the street from me. And you gentlemen probably feel the same way. You wouldn't want it across the street from you either. So I ask that you vote against it.
Great. Thank you
Mr.
for your
Maley,
comment.
can you tell the board, Mr. Maley, can you tell the board, what is your business? Tell the board.
Oil and gas business.
You want what?
Oil and gas business?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm mistaken.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good. Your name and address, please, ma'am.
Renee Lenore, and I am at 102 Grandview Circle, but I also run a business out of 112 Builders Drive.
Okay,
Builder Square, I'm sorry.
that's all right.
And I do very much oppose the tattoo parlor coming in. I think that, first off, as you know, Mississippians are very slow to give up their traditions, and there is a certain stigma, if nothing else, a stigma that comes along with tattoo parlors. There's also a lot of other activities that come along with tattoo parlors. There's body piercings of private parts and things like that, goes a little beyond somebody wanting to get a cool, frog tattooed on their ankle or something. But there are certain activities that happen that bring about a certain amount of, if you will, erotica, that I think should be reserved for more of a little bit of a red light district rather than something that's as family oriented as where we are. There's a school the next street over from us. There's houses that back up to this area. I can hear the children playing at the school ground, things like that. I just don't think it's a good place for it. I think that with the investment in the property there, built the building at the end of the street. I built other buildings on the street and was kind of a pioneer in even building the street. I'm a builder. I'm a builder developer, and hence the name of the street, Builder Square Drive, which was kind of what it was intended for, and was not the purpose ever to be that sort of business there. I think it would be to the degradation of the neighborhood, the other businesses. I think that I'm with what was said before. There's other businesses that may follow, that may want to follow. If these people may be very respectable and doing it by appointment only or whatever all the things they said are, but that doesn't mean, how can you say no to the next person that wants to have one there? If they don't thrive and make it, then somebody else wants one. Well, how can you tell them no? Theirs may not be by appointment or whatever. That opens up, I think, for lawsuits and everything else. I just, all in all, I just don't think it's the place for this. I have my grandchildren down there. I have 3 little granddaughters. I've got a trampoline outside there, and they come down when I'm drawing blueprints and stuff and play outside on weekends and things like that. And I just am not sure that's,
Sure.
Suddenly I would feel like I don't think I want my granddaughters outside anymore. I don't want them to ride their bikes in the driveway and, because of what I think. I'm sure most of the people are probably very desirable. I know most of my friends probably, or not most, but a lot of my friends probably have tattoos. So I'm nothing against tattoos.
Sure.
It's just about the things that go along with it. A lot of the tattoo parlors, I've never been in one, but my friends have told me that there's a lot of them sell drug paraphernalia, bong pipes and things like that. They'll also have pamphlets advertising piercings and, the different body parts that they pierce and things like that probably borders on, I don't know, like adult bookstores type thing.
Okay.
I just, and I can't speak to that really
Sure.
because I don't know what all they will do. I can only
Right.
speak for what I've heard is typical
Sure.
of that kind of place.
All right.
I think for them to come in and rent the front little section of a business where people have got, Jimmy Johnson and other people there, we've got, hundreds of thousands, if not millions invested in the properties or what the property values are worth. Somebody comes in, pays $600 a month to rent a place, that's hurting all of the people who are vested in the neighborhood. And I don't think that's in the best interest. I don't think that it's a thriving neighborhood as is, and I don't think it needs to change. I don't think we need to change any ordinances for it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
And I want to add one thing. Go ahead. You can have a seat.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. And I want to hit, while I'm thinking about it right now, Mr. Gaines, while she's speaking, I want to speak on Mr. Foxworth just a second. Because when she mentioned kids and children and playing around, I've known Mr. Foxworth for a long time, and there's several other people in here that all went to high school with Mr. Foxworth on the same point that can speak of his character and his reputation. And I wouldn't have a problem in the world taking my young children and putting them over at Mr. Foxworth's house to stay for the night. Now, I'm bringing back the next day, right? But Matt's a great guy, and he also understands the importance of our communities and our safety. This isn't a fly-by-night guy that comes in that's asking for a conditional use in this area. This is a guy that has strong character and strong values of our community and of our area. So I want to speak on that on the same behalf. Again, I want places safe for our community, our children, and everywhere else, and nothing that's going to bring down the value of anything I would agree with either. But I wholeheartedly believe in Mr. Foxworth because I've known him most of my life, and I can speak on his character and his integrity on the type of business he's going to bring to our area. And I would never vote for anything that I felt like was going to jeopardize or damage anything of that in our area. So I want to mention that. I know you brought up kids and children and safety and everything else. And I strongly believe in Mr. Foxworth's ability to run a business in that area on the right standards and level that we all want at the Reservoir community. So I say that from a personal note by knowing him. If I didn't know it, I'd probably agree with everything you're saying. But I know the character of the man that's standing here asking for that application. So I want to mention that one part. Anything else? I know I got outside because we're speaking in opposition, Mr. Slade, so I apologize. Anyone else in opposition to Mr. Foxworth's request? All right.
Okay.
Mr. Slade?
I think it'd be appropriate to hear from Mr. Foxworth, and we
Sure.
need to establish on the record the justification for the conditional use request.
And I tell you, before Mr. Foxworth comes up, do you mind going over and just reading those conditions that we were going to ask Mr. Foxworth on his business? That way you can have those, Matt, when you come up.
Let me get to the right page here, gentlemen. Give me just a second. Okay, I got it now. All right, first, the board has a number of considerations that it needs to make in order to grant a conditional use request. Ingress, egress to the property, I think that's been addressed by those in opposition. There was a comment about the fact that the ingress, egress appears to be adequate there. Off-street parking and loading areas, because it's appointment only, there would need to be some consideration given to the fact that anyone coming there, should the board choose to move forward in granting the conditional use, we would not want any off-street parking of any kind. We wouldn't want any parking on the street of any kind. All street parking should be off-street parking. And we don't want to impede any ingress, egress of other property owners there. Refuse and service areas, that needs to be a part of this consideration. Adequate trash removal, adequate utilities needs to be addressed. I think that is addressed here. Screening and buffering, one thing that comes to mind, the commitment that there would be nothing about the business that advertises by using the word tattoo would be in play here, so I think that's addressed. The required yard open space is not in play here. This is the big one, I think, and you've heard a number of comments that would be directed in this general direction, which is general compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district. The board has to be satisfied that the proposal is compatible with adjacent property. And so I think you've heard some concerns that this is not a business that would potentially could be compatible with some of the businesses that are currently located there. So you've got a buildings and trades operation there. If I'm not mistaken, there is at least one parcel in Builder Square that is residential in its use. Am I right about that, Renee? Yeah, so you've got one building at this location that is actually being utilized in part as a residence. And so that creates and I believe that it's in a grandfathered type setup because it existed prior to zoning, but it was approved as a conditional use probably. And so the board, a prior board has already approved that. That creates a potential compatibility issue that the board just needs to be satisfied has been or will be addressed. And so, Mr. President, with those considerations, I will tell you that the staff has worked to come up with a set of conditions that I believe should be considered by the board as appropriate. Again, similar to one we just approved, the conditional use permit would be approved for a period of 1 year. This would give this board an opportunity to evaluate over that 1 year period whether or not this business fits and can be sustained in that location. Is it compatible in fact? Because there would be a short period of time where it could be evaluated for compatibility reasons. If approved, the permit would be exclusive to Mr. Foxworth. It cannot be assigned or transferred to any third party without this board's authorization. So we wanted to make that clear. Conditional use permit, any attempted transfer of the conditional use permit would render the permit issued to Mr. Foxworth void, completely void, and it could potentially subject Mr. Foxworth to additional liability or penalties from the board. And so we would structure it so that the conditional use permit would expire 1 year from the date of issuance unless the applicant files a request for renewal. If he fails to file the request for renewal, he would have to file a new application for conditional use, and we would have to go back through consideration again. Additional conditions that could be imposed but don't necessarily have to be imposed are that the permit would not authorize the applicant to conduct any body piercing of any kind at this location. It would simply be tattoos, and no body piercing could be offered. That's a condition that the board could consider here. That would be responsive to concerns that were raised, again, about compatibility. And so at least for this initial period of 1 year, to offer the applicant an opportunity to sort of prove the compatibility piece. Can he be the kind of neighbor and the kind of business neighbor that would bring something at least not detrimental to the area? Would include a restriction that he simply conduct the tattoo portion of the business and go no farther.
Okay.
Okay. So I think it'd be appropriate to hear from the applicant at this time.
All right, Matt, you come up? Hey, good morning, Matt. If you would, just introduce yourself to the board.
My name is Matt Foxworth. I live at 122 Redbud Trail, Brandon, Mississippi, 39047. First, I want to thank the people that came up and spoke in opposition to this. They care about their community. They care about who they're around, the businesses that are around them. All the things that they don't want in a shop or in a business like this are things I don't want to work around. I don't want to be around negativity. I don't want to be around drug paraphernalia. I don't want to be around any of that. It's not my drive. 90% of my clientele is law enforcement. It's all either military, law enforcement, first responders, firemen. Those are the people that I see. Those are the people that I tattoo. The art gallery side is more of an expressionism thing as far as allowing people like me and people like myself to show artwork that we do. It's not pornography. It's not any kind of risque. It's just, landscapes and things of that nature. There are a lot of concerns with this industry, and I understand it. It's had a stigma since the day it started. You've got people there's shops out there that don't need to be open now. They're nasty, they're disgusting. I wouldn't want my friends going there. I wouldn't want other people's friends going there. But that's not what I'm doing. I expect more out of myself, and I expect more for my clientele. I think they deserve better, and I think they deserve a nice place to go to bring their wife, their daughter, things of that nature, to have something done that's nice. My hourly rate's $150 an hour. I'm not cheap, and people pay it, and because they know that I do good work, and I spend 30% of my annual income on bettering myself. That's I didn't get in this to be mediocre. As far as the piercing goes, I have no interest in that. It's not an art form. It's sticking holes. That has never been an interest of mine. I steer away from it. I don't like it. Another concern is you've got younger kids coming in. They turn 18, they want a tattoo, they want to get something cool, and they think it's a fad, and it's not. It's not going away, and it's expensive to get rid of. I don't tattoo people's hands. I don't tattoo their necks. I don't tattoo their face, especially if they don't have any kind of visible tattoos. I'd rather they go somewhere else and get that done because I can sleep better at night knowing that I didn't ruin their future for $150. That's not what I do. A lot of the tattoos I do are religious based. People want to show their faith, and they adorn their body with that. For today, for an example, we're burying a good friend of ours, and I'm going to be doing 5 or 6 tattoos in remembrance of him. And that's how some people express themselves. the overall view of the shop is gonna be, it's not gonna be like anything anybody's seen. You know, it's gonna be 100% stylish, clean, perfect. It'll be, you know, licensed by the State Board of Health, which I've carried a license for almost 15 years. That being said, as far as licenses go, you know, it's probably unknown, but, you know, you can microblade anywhere. You can go to a salon and get your eyebrows tattooed and things like that. They carry the exact same license that I do, that we both get issued by the State Board of Health. So I'm not saying that a spa is the same thing as a tattoo studio. What I'm saying is we both have the same license, so there shouldn't really be that much discrepancy on that. The main issue here is that it's a tattoo shop, but it's not. It's a private studio with an art gallery, and you're not gonna have heathens and people hanging out and smoking cigarettes and throwing beer bottles and things like that. They can go to the beginning of the street where the bar is and do that.
And
So-
you're not out in the front lawn doing all this, it's
No.
indoors.
Right, yeah. And I mean, and I've been in this long enough to where I don't get offended when people say things of that nature. I get it. I've been in shops like that, and I don't want to be around it. So, and I understand it. So, it's not something to be offended about. I just want to, I don't want to have any ill will with the neighbors I'm around. I want community, and that's what I expect to bring. And like I said, I have to thank them for caring for their surroundings.
Yeah.
I just like to prove them wrong.
Mr. Gaines, you want to add something?
I thank all of you. I thank you. However, I'm only like 95% with you, so there's gonna be a 1-year period.
Oh, and I talked to Mr. Cross about it. I am 100% okay with the 1 year.
You know that you can't transfer this permit.
Right.
Also, it was said that, oh, well, there'll be another one, right? Not in my district.
No.
I mean, if you look around, there don't happen to be a liquor store in District 4.
Right.
But they've got several over here, and there have been some that want to go,
Right.
and we go, no.
No, we're not cockroaches.
I'm not saying it won't ever happen, because it will. I guarantee, I can promise, it'll happen. But it's gotta be at the right timing and stuff. And with you, it's, I've had a few people to say that they didn't want this, and they were generally talking about a tattoo shop, not you.
Right.
I don't know how many, I'm gonna say 30, that says, I know the guy, and he's gonna be an asset. I want you to prove it to me. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve it under the condition, you have 1 year, and it's not transferable, and all the stuff that the attorney talked about. And I know you know that you're gonna have some eyes on you. You know we don't want people loitering around on the outside
Right.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You don't want it. I hope you're gonna do it right, and at the end of a year, everybody will be happy. Yeah, and I really believe at the end of the year, all these people will come in here with some real nice tattoos. But really, work with us, please, because I don't wanna be the guy that comes out there and says, man, you gotta go.
Well, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be the first opportunity to prove you right or them right.
Yep, that's right.
You know,
All right.
I'm trying to put myself in a position
All
where.
right, thank you, Mr. Matt.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Slay, we'll close that public hearing. Mr. Gaines got a motion on the floor to approve.
I'll second.
So a second by Mr. Calhoun. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with light sign. Item passes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Slay.
We'll make sure that the permit adequately expresses each of the conditions as espoused by the board. Mr. President, I think we have two additional items under our.
Hey, Mr. Slay, before you go on, can I recognize our Super Bowl champion? I'm sorry about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Normally, we don't recognize Super Bowl champions during public hearings, but some of you in the room may not know who this is, and I'm going to call her out. She's going to be mad at me for a long time by doing this, so she's got to get mad. I spent probably 2 or 3 days a week for the last 15 years with her and her son and her family, and I can't tell you how much I think about them and all of them, but the first NFL Super Bowl referee is in the audience, Sarah Thomas. So I'm going to make you stand up and get your applause. I'm sorry. Come up. Sorry about that.
If I had a
put you on the
flag, I would
spot.
throw
I
it.
apologize.
That is for sure.
I do
I
want
apologize for bringing you up.
I want to say thank you for approving Matt Foxworth's studio. And I will say the stigma, I have no body art or no piercings.
I was just figuring to ask.
But what I will tell you is, I have been that person that has judged people when they have tattoos. And I opened my mouth and I said to a guy in an airport, "Have you been to prison?" And he said, "Why do you say that?" And I said, "Well, you have tattoos on your face." He said, "No." And then he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I have a weekend job." He said, "Are you a stripper?" I said, "No." So it's touche. We're judging a book by its cover. And actually what you said about Mac Foxworth is just, he's spectacular. He's spectacular.
No
But
doubt.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for coming in here.
Mr. Slay, you gonna follow that?
Yeah.
So thank you. Hey, if you guys want to step out, y'all can. You're welcome to stay. You don't have to stay, but you're welcome to. Justin, good to see you. Buck?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Yep.
So the next one is Scott May. Yeah. Way to go, Mr. President.
Sorry about that. I wasn't sure if you knew who we had in the audience. I know
So
you've got
I
Trey
did
Jones over there
I
and
did
Senator
recognize
Harkins
him,
and stuff
yes.
like that.
Yeah,
But
I did recognize him.
so and you got Janice Dindy.
Yes, right.
All right. So item J, Mr. Slade, we've
This-
kind of gone slow today.
Absolutely. Item J is a public hearing on the Scott May rezoning request, Mulligan and Cleary Roads, District 1 property. Mr. May is seeking to rezone 159.86 acres on Mulligan and Cleary Road from RE1A to RE1. Mr. May is proposing a residential subdivision with 52 lots. All lots will front the public road. All lots will front the public road. The lots will be 2.04 acres or larger. Proposed minimum heated and cooled square footage is 2,200 square feet. Property was posted, hearing notice was published in the newspaper. We've received no calls in opposition to this request. This time I'll ask if there is anyone here to speak in opposition to the rezoning request offered by Mr. May. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition?
Anyone?
Jen, she's out there gathering.
She may be talking to people now. Is that
Let me say that again. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Scott May rezoning request, Mulligan Road, Cleary Road? Anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter? In Mr. May's application, he submitted justification being that there is a need for RE1 subdivision development in this area of Rankin County. It's inadequately serviced in that area, RE1, and subdivision development activity. We know what the market is doing. So that is a basis. There has been a showing in the application of a change in character and quality of the neighborhood to allow for this type of development activity. This time it'd be appropriate to take action on the application.
I make a motion to approve it.
So motion.
Only thing I will say is, and I think, Tim, this is following y'all, the drainage, where that road is, and that much more activity there and houses and all. I know y'all will look at that and address that. That needs to definitely be looked at. Because it's gonna be coming downhill as it is. So, but anyway, I make a motion to approve. Y'all take care of that part.
all right? So motion of public hearings closed. Motion to approve by Mr. Morrison.
Yeah, he's doing it. Good deal.
Board with you.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with like sign. Item K, Mr. Slay.
Item K is the Jana Hill Conditional Use Permit, 100 Castlewoods Boulevard. This is a District 2 property. We'll open that public hearing. Ms. Hill is seeking a conditional use permit to operate an after-school program in an existing building at 100 Castlewoods Boulevard. It's a 1.4 acre parcel, property zoned R1B. Ms. Hill owns Kids Corner Learning Center located at 50 Castlewoods Boulevard. She would like to expand the business and move the after-school children to the larger building. The proposed hours of operation, 6:30 a.m., 6 p.m. Building was previously used as an adult daycare center. Property was posted. Hearing notice was published in the newspaper. We've not received any calls in opposition. So at this time, I'll ask if there is anyone here to speak in opposition to the Jana Hill Conditional Use Permit, 100 Castlewoods Boulevard. Anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter? Mr. President, I see no one here to speak in opposition on that matter. The appropriate showings have been made in the application. This time it'd be appropriate to take action.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend approval.
Second.
So second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed with light signs? Item K passes. Item L, Mr. Slade.
Yes, sir. If I may, Mr. President, can I request the board consider
Yeah,
a
you want to
brief
go to,
executive
yeah, you want to go to
session?
executive session right now.
Litigation
Well, I
will
got-
be.
Hang on a
Wait
second.
just a second.
Jared may have one thing.
Well, yeah, we got, somehow I missed the loop here. So in fact, he's in here now, well, had some public comment he wanted to say, and we kinda missed it. Yeah,
Okay.
and I can't hate for him to have to sit through the whole thing.
Sure. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Understood.
So he just kinda slipped through the cracks with all that list, you
Yeah.
see why.
Janice never got me the list. I guess we're just supposed to just,
Yeah.
I guess we're just
Yeah,
supposed to be
we
talking,
kinda-
Janice, and I don't know
You
what
kinda
happened.
see, we didn't have but just a few to have to go through. You got-
Yes, sir,
You got mixed in the crowd.
Normally Janice brings us the list up here,
Yeah.
but today I think she thought we were just dancing, and we just missed it.
Yeah.
I got you.
You got mixed
So
in.
if-
I
if you
had a
would-
lot of conversations.
That's
at
all right.
6:30,
you
so
did.
we're good.
So apologize for sitting you out there. So if
Yeah.
you would, just introduce yourself to the board, please.
My name is Eric Vasquez. I reside at 190 Floyd Street in Florence. I've spoken with you, Mr. Jarrett, or Mr. Morrison, once or twice at least, and things have gotten to a point where it needs to be truly addressed now. I have a neighbor at 192 Floyd Street. Her name is Viorly Johnson, and I'm pretty sure some of y'all recognize the name.
Well-
It's a nuisance property, very badly overgrown. Trash is steadily being hauled up to the house. The house is in numerous violations of code. There have been fires in the
Larry,
house.
you listen to this. We talked to you about it, you listen to it. Yeah, go ahead, this is what we're talking about.
There has been a fire in the kitchen at one point several years ago. A hot water heater fell through the floor. Snakes have actually, she has told us this a couple of times, snakes have actually fallen off of a ceiling fan into the middle of her room. Numerous rats, numerous animals that have been now moved to the back side of her property where we can't see them, but we can hear them. Animals have died. They've been tossed over a fence into an 80-acre lot behind her. Sometimes during certain parts of summer, we know what has happened. It's, like I said, it's overgrown. There's junk that she is steadily bringing to the property. It's dumped in front of the yard. I have a photo, actually several photos from this morning alone from my property showing the condition of hers. Junked vehicles in the yard right there at the road. She has a bridge that was made going across a creek into her property by telephone poles, and that's starting to fall through as well. Power company, when they were reading the meter, they had to cross down and step into the ditch to get over to her meter to read it. Again, there were some German Shepherds in the yard at that time. She has yet to this point, and this is probably, I guess, one of my biggest problems. I've been in this house for 5 years. I have yet to see her bring a single bag of trash to the road for the trash collection. I don't know what she does with it. I've never been in her home. I'm afraid to. I deal with a number of rental properties, and they all have cleanliness standards that we have to adhere to through different subsidized programs. This home is nowhere near that. The house would have been condemned long ago through any of the programs that I deal with. We're asking, please, some kind of help.
Is it in the county or city?
Yeah, it's in the county. I'm real familiar with it, and I'll tell you, it's in Triangle Acres.
It's on Floyd Street.
Huh? It's on Floyd Street, but that's in like a Triangle Acres, kind of what you call the neighborhood. We've worked it numerous times, and I tell you, she's been in here, she's tried to do this, tried to do that, she reached out. I mean, everybody's tried to help her, and you're right, she had, the problem with the ditch there is that's a common, that's nothing that belongs to the county.
Right, and we understand that.
So she can't afford to put anything there, so then she had people dumping dirt in it so she could get across, well, then that dammed it up. And then some people went in, did help her put some poles in there.
Well, she put a culvert in there, an 8-foot culvert down in there. That got washed up because whoever put it in there just threw bags of concrete in there and didn't break the bags up. So now I have a damming issue
further down on her property that's flooding my property. Because we
It's
have
just-
that
it's just
common
gone
creek.
on and on. The bottom line, and to answer your question, I'll back up. We have talked about it, but it's not something I can repeat right now. But we're working on something to do with it, but the problem is where does she go? You know, you can condemn the place, I agree with you, it needs to be condemned, it needs to be gone, it needs to be bulldozed away, but what do you do? And I agree with everything you're saying, and we have worked the best we can, this department has done everything they have, she's been in here probably, we've been working on this thing for years, and she'll be in here, then she'll do a little better, then she'll, I'm getting a lawnmower, somebody's fixing me a lawnmower, it's something to bide time, I understand. Now I understand her son's back there.
Her son is back out there again.
But
she's called the sheriff's office on us a couple of times. One time in particular, she didn't want my son-in-law on my property and asked the sheriff to remove him.
I understand everything you're saying, but like I said, at this point, I'm not at liberty to talk to you about what we're working on. But I assure you, we are working on something.
I mean, things have come, it's coming to a very fast head.
It's at a point that there are no answers, but we are
We
working
don't know
on
what
it.
we're gonna do. I'm not gonna sell my property. I'm not going to move. I've bought the house.
Yeah. I mean, I know her family tried, they have exhausted everything they can do, I know that. We've exhausted what we can do. I think the churches have exhausted what they're gonna do. It's just a no.
How old is she?
Huh?
Is she elder?
No.
No, she's
not
I think in her
it.
early 50s, I think.
But this has been going on probably ever since I've been elected in some manner. And at one time, her sister and her family were trying to help, and it got a little better. But it's just gotten worse and worse, and she's, you know.
I mean, now it's to the point where the weeds and stuff are now
Yep.
to this point.
Yep.
There's a refrigerator that's sitting in her yard that's been there for a year and a half now. That's made it halfway across her yard and nothing. At one point, conditions in her house were so bad, she was living in the shed next door to her house.
That's right.
No running water, no ventilation, no nothing in there.
Yep. I think you even had to witness unsightly bathing.
Unsightly bathing, relieving herself in the middle of the yard.
Yep. Well, I wasn't going quite that far. I was
Oh,
just
no,
saying,
no,
I
that's,
know
I will
bathing
say
incident.
that is what we
Yep.
have seen.
Yes, sir.
And it's
All right.
bad.
Okay.
What we are
Mr. Slay?
intending to explore and have already had some initial conversations involves potential litigation. It's why we can't discuss it. It involves potential
Okay.
litigation. So I'm just simply encouraging Mr. Vasquez to continue to be patient while we work through a very difficult, time-consuming, potentially expensive proposition for the county.
That's right, we can't just talk about it.
We need additional patience from the property owners adjacent while we deal with that issue.
And we appreciate you coming this morning. Thank you for your comments. We apologize for your delay out there. Ms. Dindy's
After
got a-
I heard the latest, that's when really the attorney, we've had a joint discussion between our building department and community development department, and myself and him.
I guess really what, at this point then, is just knowing that there is some kind of forward progress. That's what we're looking for.
We're trying to do something.
County working on
I assure you.
All right.
Hey, I believe, and I agree with everything you're saying. Don't deny a bit of it. That's where we reached a point we gotta do something.
All right.
Okay.
Again,
All right.
thank you for coming in. We apologize for missing you this morning.
Yeah.
All right?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Slade, we're going to enter into executive session for personnel litigation.
At least litigation.
Okay,
I'm not
litigation.
100% sure about personnel.
I've got one thing on personnel I'm going to talk about when we get in there. So the board would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Calhoun, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed with the light sign. Motion to enter executive session by Mr. Calhoun, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with the light sign. So we'll be in executive session.